Hello again in this installment of Spiritual Wisdom. I'm grateful to all of you who follow me here, and I hope you're doing well. And if you've been here before, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Nicholas. I hope you're doing well. And on my channel I talk about witchcraft, Wicca, paganism, crystals and their magical properties, and all matter of philosophical and spiritual topics. So if you're interested in those types of things, you know what to do. Please subscribe. Click the bell icon to be notified each time I post a new video. Now, today I'm going to be talking about crystal correspondences. So, crystal correspondences, there's lots of books on this subject, but basically crystal correspondences go over the gender of a crystal. It goes over the planet or planets a crystal connects to, the element it connects to. Now, there's a lot of useful books out there on this subject, but I would say by and large when it comes to correspondences, some magical practitioners avoid them in their practice. They just work with what that crystal's good for, what its magical properties are. Some practitioners just focus on that, because different books say different things. So for example, this is a beautiful book here. It's a beautiful book. And the author has put each crystal in a colour section, which is also quite useful. But when it comes to the crystal malachite, okay, the author doesn't mention gender, but she says that malachite connects with the planet Pluto and the element water. Now it does connect with the heart chakra, I do agree with that. But then if you look at Scott Cunningham's book of Crystals and Gems, is a great read because he explains the history of the crystal and its mythology, but he also explains correspondences. But if you take malachite, he says it's receptive, meaning it connects to the goddess energy. He says it connects with the planet Venus and the element Earth. So different books will say different things, and that's why I would say, you know, if you want to go by a book, like if you bought a book, you felt drawn to it, and the correspondences in that book, you just want to go with that, and it feels right to you, then by all means go ahead with it. But I would highly recommend not just following a book blindly. I would highly recommend you meditate with your crystal. You know, like, you go to a crystal shop, you have a look around, you pick crystals you're drawn to, and yes, it's good to research them, it's good to read books on them, see what different authors say, it's good to listen to different people, but the best voice to listen to is you. And when it comes to crystal correspondences, I wouldn't say just follow a book blindly. I would say cleanse your crystal, meditate with it for a couple of days, ask that crystal what its correspondences are. You know, now the truth is, everything corresponds to each other in the universe. One crystal like malachite connects to both the goddess energy and the goddess energy. It corresponds with all the planets. It corresponds with all the four elements, including the fifth element, which is spirit. But when authors explain correspondences, they're talking about when they mention the gender, they're not saying every piece of malachite is a girl or every piece of malachite is a boy. They're simply saying, well, if the gender of that crystal is feminine, it connects to the feminine divine, the goddess energy, stronger. But that's not to say that it doesn't have a masculine energy too, because it does. And like amethyst, for example, the gender of amethyst is feminine, but it also has got a masculine energy to it. And then the amethyst connects to all the planets, but it's the three planets it connects strongly with is the Moon, Neptune and Jupiter. Malachite for me personally corresponds with the masculine divine very strongly, the planet Mars and the element fire. but it is personal. And when it comes to crystal correspondences, a lot of authors, when they do their research, go back to like the Middle Ages and what a lot of alchemists would say. And a lot of alchemists and magical magicians would say different things. They would say that this crystal corresponded with this planet, and they would give a reason for it, and they'd say this crystal corresponds with this element. And my message in this video, when it comes to crystal correspondences, understand that every crystal is connected to all that is. But at the end of the day, my message is also, don't just read a book and take the author's word for it. Meditate with your crystal, connect with its energy, and write down, and you can even ask a crystal when you meditate with it, what its gender is, what planets it corresponds with, or planet, what element it is. And as you meditate with it, the crystal will reveal that to you. In my case, when I do a crystal meditation, I see, if the crystal's gender is masculine, I see male deities, male gods in my mind's eye. And then I see planetary symbols, and I see the planet with that planets or planet with that crystal corresponds with, and I also see the element it corresponds with in my mind's eye, and also feel that fire energy or that water energy, and I feel the crystal's energy. So I would say, yes, these two books are brilliant, and there's lots of other books like this, but don't just read a book and take the author's word for it. Meditate with the crystal and write down what does it what. You don't have to work with crystal correspondences, it is optional. But if you want to work with them, don't just read a book and go, the author says it, so it must be true. Meditate with that crystal and find out for yourself, what does that crystal correspond with. Because if 600 people were in a room and they meditated with lapis lazuli or malachite, those individuals who meditated with the 600 people that meditated with lapis lazuli, they would have a different experience. For somebody that crystal may correspond with the sun, the element fire. For somebody it may correspond with the element air and the planet Jupiter. It's very personal when it comes to crystal correspondences, and I would encourage you to meditate with your crystal and find out what energy it has and what are the correspondences for you. That's not to say, if somebody says the gender of lapis lazuli is the planet's Jupiter, the gender's masculine, and the element's fire, that's not to say that person's wrong. It's just as that person's working with that crystal's energy, that's what, that crystal's revealing that information to that individual, because those correspondences are perhaps that individual needs at that time in their life. And crystals, when you buy crystals, they're drawn to you, and you're drawn to them for a reason. Perhaps that crystal is very good for stress, it's very good for anxiety, and maybe you need some help with relaxation, with calmness. Maybe you're struggling to meditate, and that crystal might be very good for meditation. Maybe that's what you need help with in your life at this moment. So crystals choose you, and you're drawn to them for a reason. They do have their correspondences, they're connected to all that is, but I'd really encourage you to meditate with them and find out for yourself what the correspondences are. And bear in mind, it's optional to work with a crystal's correspondences or not. It's very optional, because some practitioners just focus on the magical properties of their crystal and its history, and use it in spell work and ritual for its magical properties as well. I think books like this can be helpful and give you an idea, but the best book in the world and the best place for all the answers lies deep inside your heart and soul, lies within, not without. And I would highly recommend, when it comes to crystal correspondences, take what books like this say with a pinch of salt, and meditate with your crystal for yourself, and find out what the crystal correspondences are. As always, I know I've ramped on a little bit. This is a subject, like many, I'm very passionate about. I just felt that's the message I'm trying to get out in the video, But books like this are handy, but it's so better to check in with yourself and, connect with that crystal's energy and find out for you what the correspondences are as well. And as always, I will share knowledge and my personal experience to help you, but I always encourage you to meditate with crystals yourself and, connect with them yourself and find out for yourself what that crystal's good for, what its correspondences are. Always listen to your inner voice, your gut, your inner, listen to the sacred voice within. And I hope this helps, hope it guides you, and until next time, stay safe, stay wise, walk your spiritual path with pride, and for those of you who are witches like me, stay witchy. May I meet, may I part, meet again, blessed be.